Jenny Hill, thanks very much. Let's talk to Bruno Lete, a senior fellow at the German Marshall Fund, who joins us live there from Brussels. Bruno, welcome to the programme. So we had President Zelenskyy again saying there's an urgent need to join NATO. Is that likely to make any real difference, him saying it yet again?
Well, first of all, let's not forget NATO promised already back in 2008 at the NATO Bucharest summit that Ukraine one day would become a member. So there's a certain sense of obligation on the side of NATO. However, still today we see that this question divides the alliance a little bit. There are countries that believe Ukraine should become a member fast. There are other countries who are not so sure about that still doubt about whether the place of Ukraine is in the alliance. Nevertheless, we see that there's a more and more realization that NATO must do something more for Ukraine. As a matter of fact, there are now NATO foreign ministers meeting in Oslo today, seeking what else NATO can do for Ukraine, if not membership. But as long as the alliance is not united on this issue, whether or not Ukraine will become a member, I'm afraid Ukraine will have to sit in the waiting room, because Ukraine can only become a member if there's unanimity in the alliance, and today we're not there yet.
In terms of the war itself, we're into the second year. There is a real worry we could end up with a frozen war, a conflict that just stretches out. How much of a realistic concern do you think that is?
Well, it's a very real concern, and it would certainly also play in Russia's cards. You know, Russia has created frozen conflicts all over Europe, not only in Ukraine and Moldova, but also think about Nagorno-Karabakh in Armenia and Azerbaijan. So if Ukraine would face such a situation, the security of the country cannot be guaranteed. It would mean that Russia would still hold a grip on the country by having troops there, by having military capabilities there. So this is not something that Ukraine wants. We see that the country is preparing for a counteroffensive. It wants to fight, but Ukraine can only fight effectively if it gets the support of the West. So it needs a constant stream of capabilities, of weapons, of replenishments. And that, of course, is also the role of the West. So there cannot be peace in Ukraine or in Europe if there's a frozen conflict.
Exactly on that point you were just mentioning, we've seen the 18th straight attack from the Russians on Kyiv. In terms of what you think is likely to be happening as we wait for the spring offensive, the counter-offensive, do you think it is possible that Moscow is, in a way, trying to use up the air defences that Ukraine currently has?
Well, one of the points that Zelenskyy mentions in Moldova is that he urgently needs more missiles that can operate, for instance, the Patriot systems to defend the skies of Ukraine. So yes, Ukraine is running out of ammunition. So the West has a responsibility there to keep delivering them, but also for the West, of course, it's a challenge to keep supplying these things. We are not in a war economy nowadays, so we need to adapt as well. So I think the West will take its responsibility. The West is seeking those solutions. But of course, Russia is counting on time. Russia thinks the more we have Ukraine using its capabilities, the more likely we can win. So we cannot let this happen.
Bruno Lete, we have to leave it there. But thanks very much for joining us here on today's programme. Just a